breakfast at the gym outside at the back. So please help yourself when you're exiting, inshallah. And may Allah Azza wa Jal reward these brothers who come early in the morning, start from last night to prepare for the musallis. May Allah Azza wa Jal reward them and their families. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. During the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, once Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had an interaction with a group of people who had come from Bahrain. And this was a group of people that was traveling, and Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam had inquired about them after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam conquered the area of Bahrain. And in this group of people, there was a very exceptional quality individual, which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was looking forward to meeting him. And his name, he was mainly known by the name of Ashaj Abdul Qais. So this person, when this group of 20 people arrived in Medina, they were very eager to meet the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And everyone left their belongings, whatever they had, the way it was, and they immediately came to the Masjid, to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to meet him. But their leader, the main, and this was the same individual who the Prophet alaihi salatu wasallam was anticipating to meet. He took care of all the needs. He, mounted his tent, freed all the burden of the animal, let the animal go and graze, and then after taking care of all of this, he came to meet the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw him, and he inquired that what had delayed you from the rest, he said, "O Prophet of Allah, this is what I did before arriving to meet you." So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him that inna fika khaslatayn yuhibbuhu Allah wa rasuluh, that you have two exceptional qualities which are very dear to Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this person got delighted that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually approving something that I did, whereas my companion were thinking that I'm doing something wrong. A lot of times a person's zeal and wants to do something very eagerly, but he doesn't know the right way of doing it. So all of the companion, they immediately went, and where this person took care of all the things that he had to take care, and then he went to meet the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why? Because when you are going to do something, your mind has to be fully focused to take maximum benefit from. Now, while they were traveling, they got to this place, and all the animals are still holding their burden of the stuff. And now when they came to meet the Prophet ﷺ, their mind is still over there. This is why Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a hadith which Imam Muslim has located in his Sahih, إِذَا اجْتَمَعَ الْعَشَاءُ وَالْعِشَاءُ, that when you have the dinner and the Isha prayer combined together at the same time, فَقَدِّمُوا بِالْعَشَاءِ قَبْلَ الْعِشَاءِ, make sure you take care of your dinner needs before you go and you pray your Salatul Isha. Why? Because the ibadah, it will be completely jeopardized just for you to think about what's going on, or just for you to be hungry, or your necessities not being filled. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him that you have two exceptional qualities. Al-hilmu wal-ana'atu, forbearance and deliberation. What is forbearance? Forbearance is that you don't act upon your emotions. You have been motivated to do something, or your emotions are telling you to do something. Now, to control your emotion and to commit and do the action with this right performance. This is what forbearance is. That you know how to handle situation. You're not influenced by your emotion to an extent that sometimes we are influenced with our emotion negatively, that we go and we harm people. Or even influenced by emotion positively. And how can you be influenced by your emotion positively? Suddenly you get this great feeling inside your heart that I want to do a lot of ibadah today. And you spend your entire time in doing whatever you want to do. And then next day you leave everything. So this is not a person. This is why in the hadith of Sahih al-Bukhari, there were 3 individuals who came to the house of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And they were youngsters, young kids. And they were very rich, very much moved by their emotions. That we want to do something for Islam, we want to do something for ourselves. So let's try to do and find out the ibadat of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they came to the house of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not there. And they inquired about his ibadah. And when they were told by Azwaj al-Mutahharat that this was the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam's worship was in the house, كَأَنَّهُمْ تَقَالُّوهَا, they considered to be very less. And they thought to themselves that this is the Prophet of Allah. Allah Azza wa Jal has forgiven all of his sins. And whatever he is doing is very less, we should be doing more. So one of them said that I will wake up the entire night every single day and I won't go to sleep. The other one said I will fast continuously. And the third one says I will leave myself to Allah Azza wa Jal and will not get involved in any of the worldly relationships. I won't get married, won't have children, won't have to take care of all of that stuff. So when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to his house, he was informed about the conversation of these 3 youngsters. So the Prophet ﷺ went and he started looking for them. Who are these 3 youngsters? Very much emotion, very much moved by their emotion. And the Prophet ﷺ said, this is not my sunnah. This is not my sunnah. My sunnah is something that you do on a regular basis. It's whatever you can do regularly. And I eat, I keep fast, I sleep at night, I wake up and pray. I also have children and I also got married. And وَذَلِكَ مِن sunnati. This is my sunnah. فَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. The one who deviates from my sunnah, he is not amongst me. So now, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he is praising this companion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves this quality of yours, forbearance. And number 1 is understanding, al-ana'ah, deliberation. Deliberately, you actually, before you do something, you think about what I'm doing. Before you say something, you think the entire process. What can be the pros and cons of my statement? If I'm having a conversation with an individual, what I'm supposed to say to him, what should be my interaction with him. Thinking the entire process through. And then Ashaj ibn Abdul Qais, he asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that, O Prophet of Allah, these 2 qualities of mine that you have described, is it something that I have developed just recently, or this was already found in me? So the Prophet ﷺ said, Kana qadiman, it was already inside you. You have learned this from your family, from your relatives. And then he said, the Sahabi radiallahu anhu made dua to Allah that, Oh Allah, I am thankful of you that you have given me such qualities that are loved by you and your Prophet. That I'm thankful to Allah. Why? Because He has given me certain qualities which are loved by Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So as a believer, a lot of times, and a lot of times this emotions fluctuate. The youngsters, they develop a lot of good emotions in their life, but they don't know how to navigate those emotions. And this is what forbearance is. And that would be learned. This is not something you can learn from the books. You need to sit in the company of those who have more experience. Al-barakatu ma'a akabirikum. That barakah, blessings, it comes by the company of your elders, of those who are more experienced in life, of those who are more experienced in ilm, of those who are more experienced in amal. You know, nowadays, this is a very common slogan for the youth that is growing up, that the older people, they don't know what's going on in today's life. But let me tell you this, they might not be very much well versed in their technology of today, but they have gone through an experience of life. And in the experience of life, Facebook and Twitter ain't gonna help you. They're not gonna help you. In experience of life, you will need to learn from those who are experienced, who have learned, who have lived the life, who have seen the ups and downs, who knows how to communicate with individuals. So this is what we need to learn, and this is what this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, these qualities, they are transmitted from generations after generation. This is why there is an entire concept of the ulum that was transmitted by the Prophet ﷺ. The only means that they were used is from from the teachers to students, by them taking it directly from the teachers. They actually sat and they learned every single thing. If you were to look into the history of the muhaddithun, they would not just take ulum, they will also take practices. They will look at the shuyukh, how they used to practice, what was so different about this. If you see the Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een, they would notice every single action of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They documented, they transmitted, and they taught it to their students. And that's how ulum because if it was only for reading from the book, then Allah wouldn't have sent any messengers. Allah would have just sent the book and told everyone to read and practice. The reason of messengers being sent, so humans can learn from other humans. Individuals can learn from other individuals. So this is why those who are young in the faith, they need to learn from those who are older. And respect and honor them. Why? Because by respecting and honoring them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will elevate. We ask Allah to grant us the understanding, ability to practice. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. جزاكم الله خيرا سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك